Hitler Youth was a paramilitary organization of the Nazi Party founded in 1922 to train the national youth. From the Nazi Primer, which is the official handbook for schooling the Hitler Youth, we find the principal aims of Hitler training programs, which are character building, physical training, and training in the National Socialist war.
Diesen Kampf zu bestehen, dem übermächtig drohenden Feind die Stirn zu bieten. Und ebenso männlich und deutsch ist es, einem solchen Führer zu folgen, bedingungslos und treu, ohne Ausflüchte und Einschränkung. Jungs, es darf keinen Deutschen geben, der nicht zum fanatischen Widerstand bis zum Endsieg entschlossen und bereit ist. Wir vertrauen auf unser Glück und auf unsere Kraft, aber wir wissen auch, dass immer neue Gefahren uns umlauern. Auch unter uns gibt es Schwächlinge und Feiglinge.
We can see the reflection in Helmut of these doctrines. When Helmut finds out his father printed anti-war posters, he reports his father without hesitation to be loyal to the Hitler Youth. The Nazi youth were also being trained to throwing bombs and wearing daggers. The Primer states, parents sometimes object especially to their young sons wearing daggers, but nobody listened to them. The children belong to the state and the party, not to families. The educational reform, which began seriously in 1934, left free-thinking men and women teachers out of school. The history which was allowed to be taught in school was about how great their ancestors had been. German history, as part of the German culture, was either twisted or exaggerated to be an allure for German youth to be enthusiastic about war.
Wir sind Herrenmenschen.
Wer hat Amerika entdeckt?
Komm ein!
Although Helmut and his girlfriend said they could build a better world in the future, without the necessary general education and practical living skills, the German youth will suffer before they can rebuild the future of Germany, and the lack of trust in government and the whole social managed system would make this struggling not only for their generation, but also for the generations right after them. So here are the German youth after World War II. They lose their faith to their own government, their own culture and themselves. Are they angry? Who will they blame their tragedy on? And what kind of action will they take? My guess is rebelliousness, even violence.
Of course, there was more to losing the war than just the loss of ideals from the youth. They also lost their identity and the family structure. With the loss of the war came the loss of not only men, but also the power vested in men, the loss of the trust in the social structure and the government. Fenimore, in Sex, Thugs, Rock and Roll, commented on how the soldiers returned from the war to find women doing their jobs and other men in their beds. The traditional Germany patriarchy had been replaced. But with what had the German patriarchy been replaced? According to Leal, the Americans had replaced the German masculinity. In Die Halbstarken, we see the brothers Freddie and Jan, two characters Leal holds up for examination between German and American masculine ideals. Freddie is the adopted bad boy version of American consumerism, while Jan represents the upstanding German ideal. Over the course of the film, Jan is shown superior to Freddie in shooting a gun, conduct and dress, his reason for violence, and his resistance to sissy. However, the reason Freddie is inferior to Jan is not laid at the foundation of American consumerism. Instead, the reason for Freddie's life and choices is laid at the feet of his father, a man who has failed to be the authority in the house. Without a father figure to follow, Freddie fills in his lost identity with that of the American style. Formative American show that Freddie puts on. In fact, Jan must be the figure that their father is not. Alongside the loss of authority of the father figure, the loss of the war brought about a lack of respect for the government, as Bingyu mentioned.
Don't forget I'm your father. Fred wound up a fine mess, haven't you the strength not? So be smart. You see Freddie and you'll be in 1,000 fights. Freddie hasn't got sense enough to know he's a fool and that he's going to end up with a .45 caliber slug in his back. It's not my job. He's had his chance. Maybe he's really better dead.
If he is, it's your fault.
Careful, John.
What'd you say, John?
If you hadn't browbeat him so much, he would...
Browbeat? Leave this place right now, John. Simple as that. You can end up with your brother.
The reason for the German youth's lack of respect for the government that Isabel mentioned is explained perfectly in Karen Hanshu's article, Daring More Democracy, Internal Security and the Social Democratic Fight Against West German Terrorism. In it, she states, frustrated with the seemingly ineffectual demonstrations of the 1960s protest movements and ineffectual speeches, militant groups such as the Red Army faction, June 2nd movement, and the Red Cells took up arms. The RAF in particular stressed the importance of violence as a simultaneous act of emancipation and defense. The latter understood as of counter-violence necessitated by state-initiated violence. The repeated violations of norm would, its members argued, undermine Germans' traditional habit of obedience and at the same time force the state to reveal openly its fascism. While the RAF never came close to toppling the FRG's political or economic structures, it did succeed in provoking loud and heated debate. From the very beginning, terrorism functioned as a litmus test for German democracy, where the responses of the state and populace were taken as evidence of the lessons West Germans had or had not learned from the past. It can be seen as ironic that the RAF wanted to demonstrate what the West Germans had or had not learned from the past. Gillian Becker seems to play on this irony in her book Hitler's Children, Story of the Baader-Meinhof Terrorist Gang, in which she compares the actions of the RAF to the actions of Hitler and his followers. As we discussed in class, Marion serves as the embodiment of the RAF, while Julian serves as an embodiment of less radical movements that still advocated for social change, but slowly and non-violently. When she tells John the story of his mother, we feel that this scene symbolizes the youth being told about their past in a way that helps them deal with and overcome the past and move towards change slowly, like Julian, rather than coping with past problems in a way that involves eliminating the cause of those problems, such as the government, like Marion.
Du hast Unrecht, Jan. Deine Mutter war eine außergewöhnliche Frau. Glaubst du mir? Ich werde dir von ihr erzählen.
Alles?
Was ich über sie weiß, das ist sicher nicht alles.
Ich muss aber alles wissen.